Most entrepreneurs, including myself, got into the business thinking subconsciously that if I can make $5 or $10 million, then I'm going to be worthy, I'm going to be loved, I'm going to be happy. But nothing outside of yourself can bring you that. You don't need another mastermind. You don't need another marketing campaign. This is the most important part of the podcast. And if you listen to anything, listen to the next 2 minutes of what I'm going to say, because I'm going to explain to you and break down why you have negative things in your life that you can't change.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Land Caller. Land cold calling designed by land investors for land investors. Go to landcaller.com for more information. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Jack Boss Show, where we talk about all things finance, real estate, and really whatever we feel like talking about. And today I'm having a very good friend of mine. I know him for many, many years, that has gone through an amazing transition of being a hard driving, like stressed out entrepreneur to now being a equally successful but very happy entrepreneur, and has really cracked kind of like the secret to being happy in life. So I want to welcome you, Brad Chandler. How are you doing, buddy?
Thanks, Jack. I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. I'm so glad you're here. When did we meet? Like something like 10 years ago or so?
I started in CG 10 years ago, so I'm not sure when you
There
did.
you go. Yeah, I did like 12 years ago. Now, CG is one of the masterminds that both Brad and I belong to. And which is a mastermind of it's really the top real estate investors in the United States. A lot of house flippers in there. Now also a few land flippers. I'm proud to say that many of them are actually students of ours initially, not all of them, but many of them came through our coaching program and now are in masterminds with me as equals. We obviously have our own mastermind, the Ultimate Boardroom, but this is not about that. This is about you, Brad. So tell me about, so you I presented you as like this person to say like, now you're happy. And the truth is that every time I see you stand there with a big smile on your face, you're like wearing a t-shirt that says, put down what you're carrying. What is this all about?
So 3.5 years ago, trying to get my son help for anxiety, I was on a call with a performance coach. And in the first 5 minutes, she was like, Brad, you have a tick. And I was like, what are you talking about? I literally thought maybe I had a tick on me. She's like, you blink like crazy when you talk about your childhood. You may have some unresolved stuff from childhood that's actually affecting your son's anxiety. And I'm like, me? No chance. Like I've been a single dad for all these years. I do everything with my son. I get up with him. I bring him to school. I travel around the country playing golf with him. No chance it's me, but okay, if you think it might be me, I'll try anything. So she invited me to come out and work with her and her ex-Navy SEAL husband for a weekend in Park City, Utah. And over the course of a weekend, Jack, really, it was a 3-hour session laying in this bed in an Airbnb bedroom. My life forever changed. And I came back and I just looked at everyone in my social circles and the masterminds and my company and my family. And I thought about all the people who were struggling in relationships and business and addiction and weight, shutting down with their spouse, everything that is negative. And I thought, oh my gosh, they're struggling and suffering for the same reason that I was, and I didn't even know it. So I just started telling people about my journey, and people were like, Brad, you're really good at this. And I heard over and over again from people that said, I've never shared this with anyone but you, or only my husband knows this. And so I just kept talking to people, and then I just fell in love with it so much. And and my life changed so profoundly that I was like, I've got to give this gift back to others. So for the last 2.5 years now, that's all I've been doing pretty much. My real estate company runs without me, and I help people overcome these hidden limiting beliefs that they don't even know that are driving these negative behaviors. And that really, I'll tell you more in a couple of minutes on actually the real secret to life. But that in a nutshell is my story. I went from, like you said, hard charging entrepreneur, because to me, you had to make a lot of money, because if I could make a lot of money, then I'd be happy and then I'd be worthy. But what I didn't realize is that this sense of unworthiness I had inside me would have never been solved with money. Look at the Janet Jacksons, the Michael Jacksons, shit, even Michael Jordan, who said after basketball he was depressed and had depression and had gambling problems. Nothing outside yourself will ever bring you happiness. And I found that. And that's now why I do go around smiling all the time, because I very, very rarely get upset. And when I do, I process it, knowing what's causing it. And in seconds or minutes, I'm snapping out of it.
I want everyone to understand. You just said that you basically do it. That's just what you're doing now, almost full time, and your real estate business is doing deals without you. How many deals a year do you do, and what kind of deals? We're not going to go into that. I just want the audience to have like a frame of reference of what the volume and thing that you're typically running and the team size that you have. Just to see what caliber person we're talking to here from the business side of things, because again, caliber person has nothing to do with that. But anyway,
we've been averaging 27 deals a month so far this year. We have a team of about 28 people between our virtual assistants and full-time. And most of them, about 70% of them are wholesale, and then 30% we're fixing and flipping. We do, of the 4,500 houses we've done, we've probably done 90% of them in 3 states, DC, Maryland, Virginia. And then there is a bunch of states that we have done business in, but that would be the rest of the 10%.
Wow. Well, yes, 27 houses a month that you either wholesale or fix and flip with a team of almost 30 people.
Correct.
Boom. And you've managed that in a way that it runs itself.
So I mean, the last 6 months, I've been averaging 1 to 2 hours per month. For a year, I was doing about an hour a week. So yeah.
Okay. So we'll have you come back to talk about how to do that. But now let's go back. Now that everyone understands what kind of a business and what kind of like a stress level you probably ran before you had these things in place, and let's talk about again that weekend. Let's talk me to that weekend or to the principles behind it that you just started.
Sure. So this is the most important part of the podcast, and if you listen to anything, listen to the next 2 minutes of what I'm going to say, because I'm going to explain to you and break down why you have negative things in your life that you can't change. You can pick, let's just pick maybe top 5 or 10: anxiety, depression, racing mind, overworking, eating too much, drinking too much, shutting down with your spouse, taking things personally, shitty relationships. All of those negative behaviors that you've tried so hard, that you've gone through diets, you've gone through therapy, you've gone through marriage counseling, and you just can't change them. It's because your mind is perceiving that negative behavior is actually a solution to something over here that it thinks is even worse and more painful. So that's your subconscious mind's primary duty, to keep you alive and then take you from pain to pleasure. So here's the beautiful thing: negative behavior driven by some underlying thought. The underlying thought is often buried in your subconscious mind. And 99.9% of the time, Jack, it is an untruth that was formed through childhood when you had an unmet need, or you were in a traumatic situation, or your control was taken from you. You came up with a story at 6 years old that said, this bad thing is happening to me because whatever it is, I'm bad, I deserve it. That is driving the negative behavior. So what I do and what I coach and teach people how to do now is I show your brain, your mind, that this untruth is really an untruth by showing times in your life where something exactly opposite happened. Well, the human mind cannot hold 2 conflicting thoughts. So what happens? A mismatch detector goes off in the brain. When that happens, you literally rewrite the neural pathway through neuroplasticity that's holding that untruth, that is fueling the negative behavior. When you do that, Jack, what do you think happens to the negative behavior?
It probably goes away.
It goes away and stays away because now it has nothing to fuel it. So number one, it's not your fault because you weren't aware of it until now. Now that you're aware of it, you do have an obligation to go do something with it if you want to change your life or stop that negative behavior. But if you can just look at your negative behavior, every single one of them, again, is a solution. When you walk in the therapy office with anxiety, depression, OCD, eating disorders, that's the solution. The problem is they want to focus on that. They don't hardly ever go deep enough to get to the underlying. So you come in with anxiety. Well, Jack, let's talk you through some breathing exercises. Well, that's going to help you 2% of the time. But when you get in that triggered state, everything's going to be out the window. That's why traditional therapy and life coaching and psychiatry and marriage counseling doesn't work, because they want to focus on the conscious mind and the symptoms when 95% of your daily behavior is driven by the subconscious mind.
All right. So that's there's a lot to unpack here. So the first thing that comes to mind is like, if this is and I think you're right. I mean, I think we all driven by subconscious Michelle and I have conversations about that all the time. There's certain things that I remember back that I did because my parents did certain things, or my parents are loving parents that treated me well and think ever and never. But there's still stuff that you're like, because they said this, I responded in this way, and that created certain beliefs. But you talk about this being done in the early childhood. How, like, I don't remember anything before probably age 10 or something like that, or age 8, perhaps a little bit, because we as a family, we traveled to South America when I was little, lived 5 years in Argentina, came back from there. I got like individual kind of picture memories from a couple of incidents, not incidents, but from scenarios or situations from back then. I got no memory of that boat ride back home. It was a 3-week boat ride on a beautiful boat. I got no memories of being back here until sometime, because of all probably, I guess, all this kind of different, like, changing environments, language, and things like that. It all got buried. How do you even get to that kind of stuff in the in back? How do you bring those things back up?
Amazing question. I'm going to make a couple before I answer. I want to comment a couple of things you said. So, of the 100 clients that I've had where I've helped them change their lives profoundly, only about 5 of them didn't say, "Oh, my life was really good as a child and I had loving parents." Most of them think 90% of them think that they had a great childhood. Um, Dr. Gabor Mate, and by the way, in my head as they're saying this, I'm thinking there's something there, because you wouldn't be coming to me with anxiety or drinking or depression if there was something. So there's always something. Dr. Gabor Mate says that kids don't remember their childhood for 1 or 2 reasons. One, it was just completely non-eventful, or two, it was so painful that they've blocked it out. What we do,
Yeah.
you say you don't remember, but your memory actually starts in the 3rd trimester. You don't forget anything. Your subconscious mind remembers everything. You cannot recall it. That's the difference between
Okay.
remembering it and
Fair,
recalling
fair
it.
enough. Yeah. Fair
So
enough.
so so I had someone that you know, I won't mention any names, who came to
Sure.
me and had some pretty major problems. And he was like, "I can't remember anything before age of 5." And when we do hypnosis, I'm a certified hypnotherapist. When we did the hypnosis, there was a very, very, very urgent, important, whatever, critical something that happened when he was 2 years old. He couldn't recall it until we got him into a deeply relaxed state and brought him into his subconscious where he could pull it up. Even though he couldn't remember, that scene was driving his behavior as a 45-year-old, affecting his business, his kids, his wife, and everything. So that's the simple answer. The simple answer is it's in your subconscious mind. You may not be able to recall it or remember it, but you can't recall it, but you certainly remember it.
Okay, so good. No, thank you. That does make sense. So you basically work with people then and you figure out ways through hypnosis and so on to actually get to the bottom of those things. And but how? I mean, one thing I like, since I have you here, I'm just going to ask some random off the wall questions here. But like, how do you guide those kind of sessions in a way that the right stuff comes up?
Your subconscious mind, Jack, already knows the source of all of your problems. So all we
Yeah.
have to do is get you into a hypnotic state, which is just like a deep meditative state. All we do is have you do some breathing exercises, walk down some steps. That's it. All I do is I say, okay, let's say, Jack, you're coming to me with anxiety. You're in a deeply relaxed state. Your eyes are closed. You're sitting in a chair. You're relaxed. And I say, "Jack, take me to a time, a place, an event, all to do with the reason that you are feeling this anxiety." And your brain is going to come up with, "Well, when I was 6 years old and I was having a birthday party and my dad scolded me and sent me to my room when all the kids were there, or the teacher, made me stand in front of the room and I peed my pants and all the kids laughed at me." Your subconscious mind already knows the source of your problems. It's just your subconscious mind, its only purpose is to keep you alive. So it doesn't really care if you're happy or sad. If you grew up in an abusive, think about the people, well, maybe you don't know people, but there's a lot of people who grew up in abusive households and then they go get in abusive marriages. Is it because they like to be abused? Hell no. It's because their subconscious mind says, "Listen, this is the environment that you survived in, so I'm going to recreate it."
Hmm. I'm going to recreate it because that's what you know best.
That's what I know will keep you alive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's why we so often marry. My father was the cause of most of my trauma. I went out and married my dad multiple
Okay.
times, multiple times,
Multiple times. Okay, let's not go into
twice,
that. But
twice.
yeah, no, but it's great. So yes, in the business environment, we like to always talk about like when people. I'm just doing a little crossover into the business. People are very hesitant sometimes to join a coaching program that costs money, particularly if it's a little bit more expensive, because I always, from what I've read and what I understand, and my conclusion is that also the subconscious mind is basically saying, like, well, if I engage in that and God forbid I succeed, I am going to be different than the people around me. And as a result, they won't like me anymore. So I much rather not engage in this right now. So I stay where I am and I'm basically safe.
I,
Does that make sense?
I don't see that nearly as much as I see that entrepreneurs think that this fight or flight state that they're in, where they're always trying to do more and more and more, is like their magic power. And they're afraid that if they stop thinking that they're not enough, that their drive is going to go away. Most entrepreneurs, including including myself, got into the business thinking subconsciously that if I can make $5 or $10 million, then I'm going to be worthy, I'm going to be loved, I'm going to be happy. But nothing outside of yourself can bring you that. The irony is that I, in 3 to 5 sessions, can teach you how to get the feeling that you think $5 to $10 million are going to bring you. And then when you have that feeling today, the chances of you making 5 or 10 million go through the roof because now you're not doing shit you're not working really hard to prove your worth. You're doing it to make an impact. So at the beginning of the conversation, you said you knew Brad, this hard charging guy who was successful. Now he's as successful, but he's happy. Well, I'm going to rephrase that. I'm actually even more successful. My net worth in these last 3 years has grown more than any other 3 year. Because why? I cut all the chaos in my business. For years, it was more, 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 more. Nothing was enough. I had to grow. I had to do this. I got involved in 5 mistakes from 2005 to 2017 that cost me 9 million, my partner and I, $9 million. When I look back, Jack, that was all my subconscious mind trying to take these big swings for the fences so that I could prove my worth.
Hmm. That feels
So,
familiar right now.
so
We're in the middle of it.
if you have a business that's in chaos, or you make $100,000 one month and you lose 100, and you're self-destructive and you're chasing all of these things, you don't need another mastermind. You don't need another marketing campaign. What most people need is they need to figure out what is their why and what's driving them. And it's usually these hidden limiting beliefs that we don't even know we're aware of. I mean, you and I are in the rooms of hundreds of these people. There are so many that are just like me. And some of them want to change, and some of them are like, nope, I'm going to stay right here in my shitty marriage with my cash flow constrained business, with my racing mind, can't sleep at night because this is comfortable to me. And I prefer the misery of certainty to the uncertainty, or to the misery of uncertainty.
And that's the thing when I bringing it back. Beautiful what you said. I like this is extremely intriguing and very very cool. And the that's what I mean when we in the coaching side of things, when we sometimes present our coaching program and there's people who say like, I understand everything you say, I understand everything you do, I have the money, it makes 100% sense, but I won't do it. And they're like, okay, why not? Like, and they can't answer that question because it's because your last sentence I think says it perfectly. They prefer,
They'd rather stay miserable knowing something than try to make a change because
yeah,
they don't know what that change is going to be like.
exactly right, yeah. And they tell us that, and there's like, I don't know how to help them at that point of time because this is because I know they will be successful if they take the pieces and we put the pieces in place for them to be successful. But at the end of the day, that's their choice.
Jack,
Yeah.
they also could easily have the limiting belief that, I mean, there's a number of them that I've dealt with. It could be that I don't deserve this, I can't do this, everyone else can do it, but I can't do it because when I was a kid, they don't know this consciously, but their dad or their mom or a teacher said to them, "You're never going to amount to anything. You're the dumbest one in this class." So it could be that. It could be that they're afraid of success because when they came home with an A report card and their mother couldn't handle it, she like lashed out because she wanted to be the most important person. There's all of these dynamics. When we're born until age 7, our brain is basically in a theta wave brain state. That is a hypnotic state. So for 7 years, you're essentially being hypnotized. So if you had a parent that wasn't around, you had parents that fought, you were super poor, you had parents that hit you, whatever, made fun of you like I did. All of that stuff, that's your programming. And the things that you do to cope with it as a 7-year old, I'm not good enough. We often internalize things as kids because if it's our parents' fault, we're screwed. If it's our problem, in my situation, my dad's hitting me with a belt and making fun of me because as a 6 or 7-year old, I'm telling myself it's my fault. I'm not enough. So guess what? I have control because all I have to do is be enough, be a better boy, and my dad will stop hitting me, making fun of me, and love me. So it actually serves you as a 6-year-old, but when you're 47 and you're buying a 42-foot boat, you've never owned a boat in your life, and 60 days later, you're trying to take it to the Bahamas when you can't even read a chart to prove your worthiness, it doesn't serve you.
Did you get there?
I got to the Florida Keys and then I went through my transformation. Then I was like, wow, I don't need to prove anything. I went and got it and took it back.
Okay, I'm glad. We're glad. Otherwise, we might have found you in the bottom of the ocean here. That would have not been good for anyone.
Yeah.
Very, very, very cool. Now, what I mentioned earlier when I said like looks sounds familiar, what I mean by that is we are currently and Presley, by the time this is being broadcast, we're done with it. In the process of remodeling a 94-unit apartment complex that was hit by a hurricane, and the insurance didn't pay, and we're basically in a situation of like, what do you do? Do you walk away from that property, or you go invest a significant amount of money into that thing to rebuild it while you pursue a settlement with the insurance company? And there's different people have different opinions, but I jumped into it because I basically say I owe it to our investors to protect their money and to protect their reputation and things like that. But a part of me probably also jumped into it because it's like swinging for the fences. Once I finish that thing and I get it all done, then hey, look at me. I'm like, look at how cool this is, and so on. So sometimes you do the right things, but you do it for the right and sometimes for some of these reasons. So how do you look at that?
I mean, that's a tough one, right? That's a really complicated situation. I would say that if anyone is questioning, if anyone's listening right now and saying, gosh, I wonder if I have some of these limiting beliefs that are literally like affecting my decisions, affecting my relationship with my wife or my husband, affecting the chaos in my business. I create a quiz for the old Brad because if we were on this podcast 5 years ago and you asked me, Jack, you knew me back then, you would have probably thought that I had self-love. You would have probably thought that I had high self-esteem. You would have probably thought that I didn't give a shit what other people thought. Those were all lies, though. I really did. So I literally created this 3-minute quiz that anyone can take at unlocklimitlessyou.com/quiz. It tells you your level of self-love, AKA your level of self-worth.
Okay, so say that link again slowly because you said it so fast I couldn't even understand it.
Unlocklimitlessyou.com is the URL /quiz and take the quiz. To answer your question, though, could you be doing it for reasons to prove something? Yeah, you could be. Could you be making the wrong decision, throwing, good money after bad because you don't want people to judge you? Yeah. Could you look at those investors and said they were likely all accredited and they knew this was a risk? Yes. But I don't want them to poorly to judge me. The thing is that I've learned, Jack, through this last 3.5 years is like there's very few things that are right and wrong in this world. They just are. So you letting the investors lose the money, someone can look at you and be like, that guy's just schmuck. I can't believe he's doing that. But are they right? No. Someone can look at you and say he made a smart decision walking away from that because they're all big boys and big girls here. They know what they're doing. So I just try to take judgment out of my life. I judged everyone. I judged myself for 47 years. And I just try to see, one of my mentors says, how everyone wants to lead a meaningful life. He goes, I want to lead a meaningless life. I don't want to place meaning on anything. What we do as human beings, and it starts as a kid. Me as an example, dad hit me, dad made fun of me. Why can't I couldn't do that as a kid because I didn't have a logical brain, but let's just say I could. What if I just looked at it and said, there's no meaning here. My dad's a really hurt person. This is why he's doing it. But no, I placed a meaning on it that lived with me for the rest of my life, or not rest of my life. Fortunately, at 47, I changed it. But look, a hurricane hit the building. That's it. There's no Jack is good or Jack is bad or he did this. It's just the hurricane hit the building. Here are the numbers. What do we want to do? Whatever you choose, there's just no right or wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for the record, just for those listening, like we did invest the money. We're done with the project pretty much, and we're selling it next year. And we expect for investors to get their full money back. But again, I agree with you because at the end of the day, it was driven by not this decision. It was more driven up by like, what do I stand for? What do I want to do? And what is the right thing to do? And so on. And so how do you stand to that? Like, aren't certain things the right thing you do, and you kind of got to do them in spite or no matter what is in the background?
So again, like I don't want to say what's good or bad because I don't think there is anything, but your conscious brain could say, I want to do this because I think it's the right thing. And you could think that's why you're making the decision, but your unconscious mind could say, when I did something bad as a child, my mom judged me and I never, and I felt unloved. And when I felt unloved, our 6 million-year-old primitive brain says, okay, mom is a tribe leader. So if the tribe leader is unhappy, she may kick me out of the tribe and therefore I die. So that decision that you think you're doing because you're being worthy or doing the right thing might really be driven by this underlying thought that I cannot be judged by making a mistake again. So even if I hurt myself and cut my net worth in half or put my family in a bad situation, I'm going to do it. Whereas our conscious mind could be telling us one thing, but what's really driving the decision is the unconscious mind.
Good, very good possibility. So now, after somebody goes through these sessions with you, is there not a danger that, let's say, the if they're still close, if that belief, let's say, if they're close to a family and things like that, and because often, as I understand, it happens in a kind of a micro-social environment of like family member said something, the parent said something, the school teacher said something, friends said something. If somebody didn't move across the country or around the world or something, but is still living in that environment, isn't there a potential risk for that, even though in a few sessions this is being healed in a way, that it comes right back? And if yes, what do you, how do people, I guess I'm asking, like, does it stick? And if yes, great, why? And if not, why not? And how can you make sure it sticks?
It's a fantastic question. And when people come to me, adults come to me and say, hey, my child has issues, will you work with them? One of my first things I say is, if you want to figure out the source of your child's issues, grab your spouse by the hand and go into the bathroom and look in the mirror, because you're likely the cause of it. Kids only misbehave for one reason and one reason only. They lack connection with a parent. So in that situation, if you're a child and the parents have caused it, I can take the child and in 5, 6, 7 hours heal them. But if we put them back in, yes, because it is likely going to recur. An adult actually has options. So Jason Byrne was a client, and the reason I'm mentioning him because he's publicly said this on video on my site, and he came to me 18 months ago, almost 2 years ago, and his marriage was on the brink of divorce. Ask him now about his marriage. His marriage is phenomenal. He went right back to the situation in the environment, but what was different is he healed from the inside, and his healing allowed him to see his wife in a different light. And together now, over the last 18 months, they have healed together through his healing. So as an adult, you get to make the choices. And what I tell my clients all the time, they're like, well, Brad, what if I change so much that my spouse doesn't like me? Or what if I change so much that I don't like my spouse? And I'm like, here's the true answer. I don't know what will happen after this, because we've had people that has spouses have, like, look, the example I just gave. Then we've had spouses where they looked at their spouse and like, I can't be with this person anymore. Like, I can't take this. But here's the great thing. Once you go from lack of self-love, which most people have when they come into my coaching program, and in 5 or 6 weeks, they're at extreme self-love, they have put themselves in a position that they cannot lose. Whether your spouse is with you or not, you don't depend on them anymore. Like for 47 years, I thought I needed a woman to complete me. Now I am in the best relationship of my life. Why? Because I recognize that I don't need Yvonne to complete me. I love her to death. But if she were to come to me and said, hey, I found someone else, I wouldn't be devastated. I wouldn't go into a drinking spree or depression. I would just be like, wow, that's kind of sad. I thought we had something really good, but okay, I guess she's not for me. That's where we all want to get when outside factors don't bring our happiness or our demise or our sadness.
This is a lot of this is very similar principles and beliefs and yeah, principles than like what essentially Eastern philosophy is all about. It's like over the years, I've learned and studied, read quite a bit of like the yogis in a way, like and it's like enlightenment at the end of the day is a place where and I'm butchering this right now, but it's a place where you basically are in complete self-love and but not in like in a narcissistic self-love, but in a love where basically the love is generated inside of you and is not dependent on anything outside of you. So do you see some parallels in that? And is it like just coincidentally the same thing, or is it just a different approach to the same goal?
No, I mean we use neuroscience, we use Eastern philosophy. I mean, I've read a lot of on Buddhism, I've read a lot on Taoism. It is just, to me, enlightenment is not allowing anything outside of yourself to negatively or positively affect you. The night before my transformation, this ex-Navy SEAL said that. He goes, I'm trying to get to a place in my life, Brad, where no person or situation can negatively affect me. And I literally didn't say it out loud, but I thought, this guy's crazy. Like, that's impossible. Here I am 3.5 years later. And I'm not perfect. I'll never will be. But let me tell you how far I've moved from one spectrum to the other. I constantly judge people. I was constantly irritated on a daily basis. I was constantly lashing out at my kids. My ex-wives would come to me and they'd say something that bothered them about me that I did. Bro, I would turn it on them. I would fight with them, and then I'd shut down for like 3 days. Like, that stuff doesn't happen anymore. Like, I hardly ever get upset because now I see the world, like everything is happening for me. So if I go to play golf and I have a flat tire, rather than sit here and like pound the wall and be like, this sucks, I can't go play golf, I'm like, okay, well, maybe it just saved my life, because if I turned out in my neighborhood, a truck would have hit me. Like, everything, the universe, listen to this, because this is the truth. The universe is always conspiring to help you. I promise you, you just have to see it. So instead of thinking all these bad things are happening to me, how many bad things in your life did you think were bad that they turned out to be great? My second wife literally up and walked out of me in the middle of COVID. I mean, it was like 30 days in. It was like high tension, like the world, we didn't know what was going on, right? She's like, I'm done with you. And I was tired of hearing that. So I was just like, okay. Well, I thought that was like the worst thing that ever happened to me. Looking back, it was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. It led me on a journey and a path. We should have never been together. It led me on this beautiful path. And now I'm this changed human being. And hopefully she's happier. I have no idea. But anyway, things that you think are bad, there's a reason they're happening to you. And the universe is always trying to help you out.
Wow. I mean, all of this came from this, started in this one weekend, or is there a continuation of understanding happening afterwards? Now, you studied that and you kept going deeper and deeper and deeper. The average person, are they at the end, after 3.5 years later, are they in a place like you are, or where do you see them typically be?
It's all over the place, right? I mean, if you look at Jason Byrne, who we mentioned, like he shows up
Yeah,
on
he
our
walks
weekly
through life
call.
now smiling too. Like I
Yeah,
was seeing. Like
Yeah,
we
I
know
mean,
he's in the same mastermind with us. We're in the same room together. And now, like in the last couple of well, a year and a half, it's like I look at him and it's like this is a different person walking towards me. He has always like a big fat smile on his face, and I mean that in the most positive way, like a beautiful smile on his face. Yeah,
yeah, he sent me a text, I don't know, 8 months ago saying, "Thank you for changing my life and my family's life." That was better than any $300,000 real estate deal I ever did. So, yes, I continue to study. I am like passionate about this. I've got all these books behind me. I realized I got into real estate, Jack, just to make a bunch of money. I could really care less about real estate. So I couldn't study real estate. It was always anytime I studied it, it was just to think to, oh, I got to make more money. Now I love the subject so much that I could literally take 1,000 books and go sit on a beach for the rest of my life in 8 hours a day, read and never ever get bored. So no, I'm constantly getting better and learning stuff. But if you're asking for like the average client, we try to set up something where you are always going to be continuing to get better. And it's going to be up to you at some point. The difference between me and like a therapist where you come back every week and tell them your problems and you just go over and over and over again is we give you, Yvonne and I in our coaching program, give you literally a toolkit of tools that the rest of your life, no matter what you run into, you can process it and be aware and figure out why am I feeling this way and how do I get out of it? That's it. The tools are there. You get to use them or you get to stick them in a closet and close the door.
beautiful. All right, guys. So let me repeat the website again. It's Unlock Limitless You, and you is it's all spelled out. There's no numbers in there, so it's all spelled out. It's Unlock Limitless, double S at the end there. YOU.com, and then it's / what for that little test?
/quiz for the little 3-minute quiz and /
Right.
Brad for all of my contact information, including my cell phone number. If you're suffering or struggling, you don't need to be, and I'll help you out any way I can, no strings attached. And there's also a link to our podcast called How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. So if you like this type of content, we've got 100 episodes or 125 episodes going into much deeper into what we've talked about.
Wonderful. So thank you so much, Brad, for being on the show with us, with me here. Perhaps the last kind of word, perhaps you have a last word for our audience before we wrap it up?
I do. I think it's just a continuation of what I just started saying. If you're in a terrible marriage, if your business is in chaos, if you weigh too much, if you have depression or anxiety, number one, it's not your fault. It's your mind just trying to protect you from something else that really is just a falsehood. And I promise you, no matter what you've tried, you're a lot closer to where you think than you really are. You're hours away. You don't deserve to suffer. You don't deserve to struggle. You were put here for a massive mission, and your life was meant to be full of abundance with amazing, connected, deeply connected relationships. So stop listening to the bullshit of society and the voice in your head of your parents that said you couldn't do it or you deserve this or that. No, you deserve freedom, true freedom. And everything you've ever needed to be happy is inside of you right now. We just need to unlock it. That's it.
Wonderful. That's a perfect ending. That's it. Thank you very much. This ends our podcast. As always, give us that 5-star review. Thank you very much. That's a wrap.